Miles, Tim.
Oh, yes.
How are we doing?
Hey, guys.
Very well, thank you.
Good to have you in our professional studio.
Smart, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, no, I was. Right, guys, before we really get into it, can we just find out a little bit about yourselves?
Yeah.
And how you got to know each other?
Certainly can. So we'll give you a quick whistle-stop tour about us and how we came together. We actually went to school together a long time ago. And after that went on two very different directions to today. A number of years since we left, so a lot has happened in that time. But probably start with yours, isn't it? The easier way of So as Mar says, we went to school together a long time ago, just outside of London. And then at the age of 18, so finished school, I went straight into the armed forces, commissioned as an officer at Sandhurst and joined the infantry. I spent about 7 years in the Mercian Regiment. So I did a tour of Afghanistan in 2010, 2011, and had a great career.
So you were actually in Afghanistan?
I was, yeah.
Wow.
In 2010 into 11 on Herrick 15. So that was what I joined the army for. So I got a good dose, a good dose of infanteering early on, which was a great way to kick off a career in the armed forces. And I then progressed through to the rank of captain and did lots of awesome jobs all over the world for 6 or 7 years. But there was sort of one consistent through my career, and that was the terrible coffee in the army. So often referred to as cough tea, because it would normally come in a large sort of bucket that you just lift the lid off, and there was a brown substance in there, and it was steaming, and you just kind of
Got a ladle.
there was a ladle, and you had a metal cup, and you just sort of dunked it in, and it was hot and caffeinated, and that was all we really needed.
Yeah.
But don't out on any of that. No, you'd really struggle, yeah. But it meant that throughout my time in the army, I was always kind of after a good coffee, and wherever I was in different parts of the world, would try and seek out a decent brew. Carrying their press and all the rest of it. But I decided to leave the armed forces after 7 years. I wanted to do something else. So I left the forces and joined Stranded Life, which was in financial services, which was a big change. Ended up in their tech team, doing project management, which was really my first exposure to technology. Yeah. And kind of working with apps and platforms. But it was not long before I decided that the finance sector wasn't for me. The corporate lifestyle didn't quite gel with what I like to do. So I was itching to start something new. And obviously at that point I was living in Edinburgh, which has an amazing independent coffee scene.
Yeah.
Lots of side streets and back alleys with small independents on. So whilst I was doing everything I can to get out of the office and shape the corporate life, I would basically find myself looking out for a new independent and discovering the coffee scene there, which is one of the catalysts of RWRD. But throughout this time, Miles was on a very different journey. Yeah, I was just going to say first, the coffee scene in Edinburgh is amazing. I was actually in Glasgow over the weekend as well, and the coffee scene there now, like just every single corner is a new coffee shop. So it's interesting. We're seeing it in more and more cities and towns. Yeah.
Are they using RWRD over there?
More and more.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll come on to more details of what they use.
Yeah.
But as Tim says, my background was very different. So left school, went to uni, and then jumped straight into the world of startups, predominantly all around F&B and hospitality. So initially ran 2 coffee shops myself, so 2 pop-ups. First concept in Southwest London, second one in just by Tower Bridge. So 2 good locations, albeit slightly off the beaten track. And we found in both locations that we had really good coffee, well-trained staff. Our food offering was all from Amsterdam producers and local producers. So what we thought was, a very attractive offering to customers that we knew wanted to find these sort of places. But in both times had the same problem of being 100 meters down the road from a Starbucks, a Costa, and a Pret.
Smart.
So Vauxhall was the first one. So we're down about 150 meters down from Vauxhall Station down the river. We thought people would be having their river walks. They'd find us, they'd get their coffee. Because actually by the time they did find us, they already had their coffee because they've been into Pret. And a number of times that we'd hear the same thing, which was always like, we wish we'd found you first. Was obviously a massive frustration when you've got everything there.
But told them you found us already.
Yeah, well, that's it. But
Similar problem when we were in Tower Bridge, so an area called Shad Thames. I don't know if you know that bit, like really cool location. But you've got Shad Thames, which is the main one. You've also got one of the watch houses on there, which is great. So there were people in that area looking for coffee and stuff like that. But we were a street back. In front of us was a massive Starbucks, like one of their flagship ones. And again, like trying to drive traffic past that to us was a real issue. So incredible insight into that coffee shop world and that hospitality world, but then moved from that to another startup in e-commerce. So a food platform that connected independent food producers and delivered food directly to customers' doors. But suddenly it meant that these small shops suddenly had access to a nationwide audience that they simply didn't have before. No. And suddenly the insight into seeing the struggle to get discovered as a small coffee shop, particularly at that time, versus what a tech platform can do to introduce customers to these kind of shops, while Tim was having this struggle from the customer's perspective, sort of came together. And that's where sort of Reward formulated into launching in late 2019. And we kicked off with a real focus on, both discovery and customer reward. So connecting those two sides.
It all sort of started when, as Miles says, it was an experience from both sides of the counter, and we kind of got our heads together. I'd like to say over a coffee, with probably over a fin, and started to kind of map out what customer experience did we want to create. And, from my perspective, my motivation was, I want to find a great coffee shop. I want you Google it and you'll get all sorts. So a refined list, a refined guide of great places. And then when I get there, I want to be rewarded for supporting the local. And that was the transactional element that became habitual as customers continue to use the platform, which keeps people coming back and using it. All the while building up this audience of people that care about coffee, that the coffee shop can then engage with digital marketing to kind of increase their reach, increase their visibility, and better engage their audience. So we started drawing it out on the windows of your flat, mapping out kind of what we like the look of, customer journeys, and brought an MVP to market. And then we had the whole problem of who's going to download an app with no coffee shops on, and what coffee shop's going to join an app with no users.
So creating the app, did you guys have an experience? I know you said you've created like a, e-commerce platform. Was it something that you have done yourself, or you kind of hired some?
Yeah. So my background around that had all been around like the customer experience and those customer first. I had some understanding. Tim had experience in technical project management. So we had a loose understanding, but the majority of it was very much learning as we went. So what's quite remarkable is actually when you look at the designs that we did draw on a window through to the MVP, actually a lot of the concepts did carry on through. And I don't know if that was our skill or just our luck, probably the latter. Probably the latter. But we've worked most of it out by speaking to the shops that we work with. That's a really important thing to us, because ultimately the customers use it for the discovery and getting those rewards, but actually the shops are a hugely important part of that, because as Tim said, no shops, no users, no shops. So there's a network there. As we've grown, understanding the needs and wants of both sides, we then take on board and put into different ideas. And that's why as we've grown, we've got the discovery and rewards, as we've said, but now moving into an area of rewarding both sides of the counter. So actually, and we'll come into it in more detail, I think, but around tipping staff and really nailing some of the problems with hospitality that are out there. But we do that, by feedback, talking, speaking to people. And that's always been a really important thing for us throughout a now 3.5-year journey, where we don't just want to be an app. And you guys well know there's lots of apps that can come and sell you services and stuff like that. I think that we want to be a brand rather.
So did you guys had a look at different reward apps before what's out there in the market? And how did you come up with okay, let's just focus on coffee shop. There's nothing for the coffee shops. Or were they actually companies who were offering to the coffee shop as well at the time when you started?
So I think there were a few things out there. You can very easily find blogs that will tell you, where some good coffee shops are. There's lots of content online that will help find a good brew if you want to take the time to dig it out. Equally, most coffee shops have a paper card loyalty system. That if you do get, you'll get given a card. But what we found is all of these things are available in isolation in lots of different areas. But what we wanted to do was bring something together that served, that served the specialty coffee industry. And what we identified is that there's a real power in building a specialist community, and the value in that, and giving the coffee shop owner access to that audience and aggregating this audience together across a number of different locations starts to build power for that small independent. And it's the kind of reach and the kind of functionality that you usually maybe associate with a high street chain. Some of your big names that have the capital and have the resources to develop their own apps. You're going to download the app for a big chain that has 40 sites. Probably not going to download an app for a single site.
Yeah.
So these single sites, they can't engage their audience once they've left the room.
Yeah.
But as we've brought together the specialist community, it was about giving independent business owners a capability that they otherwise couldn't have. And what we found is as we've continued to build that audience, there's real value in it. And actually we have really high engagement rates. We see great success in driving footfall to new shops. We can surprise and delight our customers, independents that we know that they're interested in. And I think there's so many opportunities come out of having that specialist community.
Yeah, I think that final point around that engaged user base is so important, because there were lots of dangling carrots for us in the early days of, particularly because we launched just before COVID, and actually something a digital loyalty platform, which was one of the things that we could offer, was very interesting to coffee shops, but also to anything, laundries, to nail bar, to whatever it might have been. So we had a lot of inbound inquiries over that time. It's obviously very early days for us, where it's like, if you've got customers coming to your door, but we had to resist the temptation to go down that because of that strength in the community that we're building. Anyone that has downloaded Reward wants to find good coffee shop, or is already a good coffee shop, or is already finding good coffee. And the fact that we can then, all of our comms and marketing that we all get nailed by email all day, every day now, right? Actually we managed to achieve cut through because of that specialist connection of that.
Can I just ask a quick question? So do you guys have like a criteria where you decide which shop is considered a specialty, that you take them on board?
Yeah, for sure. So every single shop that's on the platform has been, if you like, looked at, reviewed, had a bit of a QA by one of the team. And we have a rule of thumb, we look at the coffee, we look at the aesthetic, and we look at the team behind it. And, it's not a case of, if you're not specialty, you're out, because there's a number of coffee shops on the platform that maybe don't have specialty coffee. However, it's a family business. Maybe there's, maybe they've got Italian coffee in there, which might not be deemed specialty.
Or it could be sort of like a bakery, and coffee is just, serving decent coffee. So I think that's one of the options you look at.
Exactly. I think
have to be specifically coffee shop.
Sure. And as a rule of thumb, we'd say they have to be somewhere where I or Miles, or we'd recommend it to go and actually sit and have a coffee. Is it somewhere where I would actually sit down and enjoy a brew? Yeah. If it's not, then we probably don't want to be highlighting it and promoting it.
Yeah. The nature of the tech as well is, as part of the sign-up process, every coffee shop that comes on, we take on board what their machine, grinder and beans are. Yeah. So actually we can very easily say, through that sign-up journey, through our back end and through our platforms, we can see if there was let's not name brand names, but less, like a cheaper coffee or something that any wasn't standard, we can, very easily click on a button, see what that would be and address it. And I think what's really exciting, taking that a step further, is that we're all about helping people discover better coffee and championing independence. So if we meet a shop, or we come across a shop that is serving bad coffee, we have the network and the contacts to put the two together and fix that issue very quickly. So if we see someone, they've signed up, we see they're serving a bad coffee, we can put them in touch with any of our consultancy services, something like that.
It's funny because me and Zara, we were talking not so long ago, and we're talking about Reward and you guys and what great, journey you've had so far. And Zara mentioned that I think in 2009 you visited us. Yeah, in the Love and Hill shop.
19.
I got to him, really? I didn't remember it. And then it came back to me that you actually came to the shop. We went and sat in the back.
In the back.
I remember it very well.
I think at the time we were using our own sort of like integrated till system loyalty.
And it was very early days.
Yeah. So sorry about that. But
no, we got that. We got that.
We got that. We use it now and we love it. Our customers love it as well. But Reward became successful quite fast, in a short period of time. Well, how did you manage that growth that quickly?
So I think just like many tech platforms and networks, we face that cold start problem. I alluded to it earlier. Who's going to download an app with no shops? Who's going to sign to an app with no users? So the way we got around that was essentially grafting and hitting the streets day in, day out for the first
Grafting, begging,
crying again. Some very rainy days in November and December of 2019, just hitting, all the shops that we could find. And I think once you get, the hard side of that network, the more important side, I think, is the shops.
Yeah.
To get the shops on board, the users will come. Yeah. So we, focused on a hyper-local area, and we're both Southwest London. So we focused in Battersea, Brixton, Clapham, that sort of surrounding area, identified the key shops that we wanted to work with, went in, won over the owners, got a bit of buy-in from them. They started featuring on the platform, and then you start to get the wheels moving.
Yeah.
And as you get a few key shops, it starts to turn a few heads. People start to talk about it. We did promotion, but there was really no shortcut. It was about knocking on doors, building relationships.
Yeah.
And as Mark said earlier, we've sort of been relationship led throughout the whole journey. I think that's really important for us.
Yeah. I think one thing that did, was a dial change. It was obviously what happened in 2020 now. So obviously COVID and everything like that. That
Feels like ages ago.
seems like ages ago. Yeah. But that for us, obviously, we'd only been going for 3 or 4 months when that happened. So it was, in a way, super frustrating because we probably had like 50, 60 venues at that point. We were beginning to get some traction, and then suddenly, obviously, shutters came down left, right and center. But actually, after COVID, suddenly lots of different coffee shops were very open to the sort of thing that we were offering, because suddenly contactless was the magic word, right? And we were a contactless loyalty platform. We were giving these shops the ability to speak to their customers outside of their shop. So suddenly these tiny little selling points just meant there was a real problem for that at that time, which really allowed us to grow way quicker. I think it also allowed us to start experimenting with growing outside of London quicker, because people were more used to jumping on a Zoom call or whatever it might have been. So, we could jump on a Zoom call with someone in Leeds and then onboard them. So we really refined that as well. So actually, while obviously it caused years of uncertainty and lots of challenges, actually it gave us an opportunity, this COVID, to push out into different areas, and people were willing to listen to new things.
Yeah, and plus I think that people, they used to getting the cards, and during COVID, people didn't want to touch it.
Exactly. That contactless word, right? Like,
Yeah, we were, fortunate in a way that at that point, as Mars said, we were a contactless solution to paper loyalty. We were also a method of communicating with your audience remotely. And everybody, if you remember at that period of time, was having their sort of one walk a day. There was a big push of
No cups is more than one walk a day.
Yeah, one walk a day. It was all about supporting local, and a lot of the independent coffee shops, in order to keep their doors open, overnight turned themselves into delis, selling the key supplies. And so for the community, we were a platform that solved three points, right? It replaced their pay with the card. It meant they could discover new places. And for the coffee shop owner, it meant they could stay in touch with their audience. So we were fortunate to kind of grow quite quickly through 2020, right up until, we've kept going.
I think the important thing was, as we continued to grow post that period, is being in tune with what the problems and where the areas for new products are. And I think another thing that COVID accelerated was the move to cashless, right? Do you guys even take cash anymore? Do you take cash?
We do, but it's not just
very often, right?
Small.
So that actually moved us into looking at what we could do in the tipping space, because suddenly we were looking at all these coffee shops, and we speak to coffee shops every single day, visit coffee shops every single day. And it was tangibly evident that the tip jar on the side of things would just be empty, or there'd be like 5, 10p.
A lot of pennies and
lot of pennies, exactly, yeah. But like, I don't know the last time I had like physical a pound in my pocket, for example. And we were speaking to some of the shops that we work with, and we were discussing the idea of doing tipping and how we could do that. So after the start of this year, introduced in-app tipping, which was our first venture into this space. We'll come into it more, but I think the point being, just going back to the question around how have we grown so quickly, it was been adapting and really making sure that the product is solving issues rather than just being a nicety, if that makes sense.
Question to the, focusing on the technology. So we know like technology is not perfect always. And especially when you guys, as a startup, the MVP and, allowing consumers to use, how do you kind of manage that, level of service and ensure that both coffee shops and customers are always looked after?
So, I mean, as you say, technology is notoriously difficult to get right.
Yeah.
It sometimes has a mind of its own. And I think it's been a learning curve for us throughout. And it's all about iterations, constantly improving, continuous improvement. We work with a great team that supports our back end, and they're incredibly responsive. And if we've got an issue, they'll jump on it right away. And in terms of managing, that customer service element, supporting the businesses and also supporting consumers, I think it's about just being super responsive. And we're if anyone gets in touch, if they've got a question or a query, then, we're always quick to respond, make sure we look after people. It's always a human interaction, again, with that relationship led piece. And I think that that gives us, credit with the consumer because they appreciate that we're responding to the query. And from a tech perspective, it's just about iterations and evolving as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I think it's having a good baseline with a good tech stack. And then it's sort of a blessing and a curse that if we do have an issue, it tends to happen very quickly, but we can fix it very quickly as well. So I shouldn't say it's just about being alert on it because you can't be perfect. Kill systems sometimes go down and that's hard to fix. But as I say, blessing and the curse with tech is these things can happen, but you can also fix them pretty quickly. Touch wood.
So using the reward app, it's in some ways it's down to the person's honesty, right? Because obviously they do tap in, right? They can use few times. If let's say a barista or the person who takes the money is turned around, they can actually tap in. Have you actually thought about of using in such a way that it kind of connects with the system, that the amount of coffees you buy, it automatically, takes, the loyalty stamps on the app as well?
You make one tap and whatever's passed until
for sure. So we, a couple of different things have there. As you say, it's separate. Our back end and the tech side of things, these people can't cheat it because we have security flags and stuff in place. However, we're always looking to solve different problems and when there are problems and things. So with the payment side of things, linking to POS systems is an interesting and fairly complex world. But there's different technologies that are coming up now that will allow us to start exploring that world. So we explore things like card linking, exploring things by pay by bank, which are emerging technologies generally, that allow us to link the two together and effectively give a really good customer experience that they pay. If I bought 2 flat whites, I'm getting more rewards than if I bought 2 single espressos, for example. So there's lots of different angles from it, and lots of exciting angles. It's just our job to have our roadmap and our strategy of which way we want to go. But at the moment, it's an easy way that customers can interact in that way, but definitely one that continue to explore.
Cool. I think striking that balance between, being able to grow quickly and work with any coffee shop with any system.
Yeah.
With a remote setup.
It will be a lot of APIs,
for example. Last week in the space of hours, or not even that, but we've signed up coffee shops in South Africa, Australia, Canada, the US, and we're able to expand and grow that quickly because we have a very simple system that can land in any shop and work. Yeah. And obviously that comes with a what's the word?
Caveat?
Not caveat, but it comes with the downside that we're not integrated with the till system. We did integrate with the till system. It's a much heavier integration. Not as easy to roll out as quickly. But as Miles said, as technology continues to evolve and our roadmap comes into view, there's all sorts of opportunities. So have you guys actually visited South Africa, Australia on business trips? I wish we had.
We lined them up. I think Greece might be in it. But that's the biggest quick.
I went to New York and went into quite a few shops there, and we got a partnership with a group down the east coast of the US.
Nice. So guys, tell us a little bit about your team. Obviously, you are the face of RWRD. But tell us a little bit about your backroom team. How many of them are there?
Yeah. So in total, the whole team, we're around 10.
Okay.
So we have, as a tech business, ultimately the half the team is in that area. So we work with a front-end developer, a back-end developer, a technical project manager on their side. And we also occasionally bring in other freelancers and skill sets that we need on that side. But which allows us to build, maintain and plan on the tech side on a consistent basis. We then have our sort of sales and marketing side of things, which is headed up by Holly and Curtis. So Holly is our sort of sales director, heads up everything in terms of our direct sales to shops and looks after that. And she is super passionate about the space, super charismatic. So it brings in, going back to what Tim was saying around relationships being key for us. She's really strong in that area. And Curtis is on more of the marketing and brand building side, which is super important to us, but is very creative, very good behind the camera, and that side of it. So we're in the process of bringing a dream team to cover off all the areas that we need. But if there's also things further to that we look to do, we also bring in some digital freelancers and that side of it. So we can be pretty agile as a business. And I think over the period that we've been growing, that type of business has become more and more commonplace, where you can have your core team, which is our tech and our sales and marketing, but then we can just bring in people as and when we need them.
I think another thing that's really important, in regards to our team, is that over the years, we've established some really strong partnerships with coffee roasteries, with lots of different shops. And that enables us to ensure that a team working on either selling the product or supporting our accounts, we make sure that they've all had coffee training. So they're all probably not quite barista quality, but that, they've been down the roastery and had barista training. They understand some of the depth of specialty coffee. And I think it's really important that all of the team working with RWRD app is passionate about coffee, understands coffee, and can actually connect and kind of, have a conversation with a coffee shop owner about their coffee, about their setup, and have credibility in that conversation.
Yeah, I reckon we could back through a little barista session.
I could probably put it. I would have to put a lid on everything. Is that one?
Yeah, let's do it.
Do you know what I was just thinking now? Do you guys get like phone calls from like consumers getting like any help with the difficulty of the app to users basically?
Yeah. So sometimes, obviously on the application, there's a support function. So if they have questions, if they, missed out on a stamp or whatever, they do get in touch. We manage those support tickets. We've had, nothing major, fortunately. If everyone was facing issues, then let's be honest. But fortunately, there's not a huge amount of customer facing or consumer facing issues that we have to deal with.
Right. We will get messages and emails though about like coffee shops or ideas about like different features and stuff like that, which I think is super nice because it really shows that the people that are using the app are engaged with it. Yeah. Because whether, as I say, suggesting a different coffee shop or whatever it might be, like they are engaged with it, and we definitely have that direct line with them.
Amazing, guys. So let's talk a little bit more about the deep jar service, you guys. Yes. Obviously, it's a really important function that we have it ourselves in our coffee shops, obviously, and it's been great for us. We love it. The staff love it. Our teams have tripled, quadrupled, I would say.
Yeah.
What has been the feedback from the other specialty coffee and what if we?
So just to give a bit of context to how it came around, I mentioned earlier that we brought in hand tipping into the app itself earlier this year, which definitely proved popular and sort of put us on this path of like, how can we bolster that? Which is what we've done with, as you say, these tip boxes, which are at the point of sale or in the shop, that allow customers to tap their card or mobile device and leave a preset amount, usually £1, which can go directly to the shops or directly to members of staff. So the reason we brought it in was because we wanted to bolster that tipping side of it. But as you say, it's been super popular with customers in your shops. For example, you've obviously seen how much people interact with it. But we only launched them, we piloted a couple of them, launched properly in the last couple of months. So we've got hundreds of these boxes out there now. And I think it's such a tangible step up in earnings that people really buy into it. And think we were surprised when we did user feedback around the customers wanting to tip. Like, it's a real, people want to do it.
And nobody carries the cash.
Exactly.
And one thing I've noticed is sometimes when I'm behind the bar working with the team, it actually encourages better customer service, 100%. Because I see when I've been behind counter working, the number of people I've seen tapping away.
Yeah.
It's amazing to see, how much they appreciate the service and how much they appreciate the staff who.
More earnings, happier staff is always good. And I think that taking a step away from it not being on the card machine as you're paying is a really important bit as well. Because there's always that awkward thing just after, like, here's your price, and they literally just like looking at you being like, right, which one are you going to choose? As actually we give the ability to take a slight step and put much more the power much more with the customer. Actually means they've had that full service, because even if they paid before they've had their coffee, by the time they use ours, they've had their coffee, they can see it, they've had that full service. Some shops will have it nearer the stirrers or behind the door and that side of things. So it actually means I've probably tried my coffee and that side of it. So taking it away from that point of sale is exciting.
And I think one thing that's worth noting as well in the space we operate in is that there is a decent amount of service, a decent amount of skill that goes into making a good coffee. And I think that's appreciated. We all know how difficult it can be to, do good latte art, and that you've got to actually think when you're making a coffee. It's not as simple as just, chucking it in a cup. And I think a lot of consumers appreciate that. And when they do get nice chat from a barista, a quality coffee carefully made, it's worth rewarding. And as Miles says, taking the reward away from the point of sale, away from the payment, just kind of breaks that relationship. And I think people are more likely to leave a tip when it is a completely separate thing.
I think a lot of times what I have been personally asked by the customer is, do you really get these tips? And when you actually give them that assurance that you actually get this money, and they are becoming more, you can see them like second day, third day, sometimes, they'll just tip. Because they feel like, okay, these guys are actually getting the money. It's not just, you do it and then the company gets it.
Exactly that. I think that's a really important distinction to make. And as coffee shop owners, if tips go through the till system or if it's in cash, it becomes a bit of a headache to manage. There's some administration, and ideally you just want a manager to take it off your hands and you're like, I don't want to know about it. We're able to provide that to a coffee shop because the tips that go through the tip box are paid directly into baristas' bank accounts. And that for the staff is brilliant because they've got the full confidence that, the business is not touching them. For the business, it's great because you've got no headache, no admin, don't need to worry about it. It's being taken care of. So,
and the customer, just to the point you're making, the customer is reassured that it is going.
Exactly.
And actually, it's now law that it has to, but equally there's still lots of suspicion because of so many years of it not ending up in the right pockets. Actually being able to show that full journey is a really exciting product. And as we've seen, people really buying into it.
Amazing. Can you, we want to tell our listeners how easy is it to download the RWRD app? Anyone doesn't have the RWRD app on your phone, because there's more and more specialty coffee shops in London who do use RWRD app, and it's amazing to see.
And
how far you've got, really, exactly. And how far you guys have come. Can you just explain in a few words how easy is it to download the RWRD app and start using it?
Yeah, for sure. So it is available on iPhone, iOS, and also on Android. So all you need to do is go to your relevant store. The app's completely free to download. So just search RWRD, RWRD, on the App Store, and you can download it free of charge. Once you download it, you'll find on there hundreds of top quality specialty coffee shops all over the UK, all four corners from Scotland, Wales, England, and also abroad as well. So we've got hubs growing out in Australia, South Africa, areas of Europe, the US, Canada. So if you do find yourself landing in a new city, it's worth having a check because the first thing everyone wants when they go somewhere new is a good coffee. That's it.
And then for the shop side of it, they can obviously download the app in that way and have a look at it. You can go on different profiles and see what we highlight on there. And can also jump on our website, which is rwrdapp.com, to find out stuff about all the different functionality, and also book a call with Holly and her team to learn more about it, or with us, and find more
information and time.
I hope we bring some people down your way.
Sure you will.
It's amazing.
So tell us, guys, like, what would you be doing with your Korean now if Reward wasn't a success?
We had lots of ideas before we started.
Yeah.
To be fair, we had a van plan, which was going to be converting vans, import.
Yeah, there was a
There's
there's a bar business. That would have been a bad time to start a bar
Yeah.
business, but yeah, we'd be doing something, the two of us, kind of with some entrepreneurial idea that we were both pretty set on coming up with a business and making a crack of it. So I'm glad we went down the route in coffee. I think that it's something that we were both very passionate about, and it's working out okay. If it wasn't for coffee, yeah, as we say, it would be some other harebrained scheme in a van or in a bar, or at one point it was those lids that went on blenders.
Smoothie partners. What's the inbox smoothie partners? Yeah, we might find down the road. Anyway, something. But yeah, we'll see. But fortunately for now, we've got reward and lots of opportunity that's coming up as we go forward.
Right. And looking to the future, where do you guys see Reward in the next 3 to 5 years?
So the growth piece is always going to be one, more shops, more customers, and connecting the two. The tip boxes, obviously, what we touched on and that kind of things, and really making them work for baristas' earnings.
Yeah.
From a tech perspective, there is going to be interesting stuff going back to that pay angle and what we can bring in to improve that customer experience and do that side of it. But ultimately, as we grow our base of users and shops, there's a million different directions that we can take it into. It's hugely exciting. But I think sticking true to the brand and being that connector, being in coffee is where we see it.
Great. Guys, I think that's pretty much it. We will wrap up now. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, right?
Yeah,
All the
great.
best with the Reward.
Appreciate
Yeah.
I wish you for, to see Reward in many, many more countries in Europe, across Africa, or, Canada. Are you guys in Canada as well?
We are in Toronto and Vancouver.
Oh, nice.
I'll sort that way.
Anywhere where
Or
we can
cities.
see exactly. So
Yeah.
it's very exciting.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Hey.